These are all things that in the human experience that we're going to go through. And it's not about how many times that you fall down, it's how many times you get back up. Because in life, nobody's going to go unscathed, but especially for men, we're supposed to battle. We're supposed to fight. Nothing's supposed to be handed to you. You're supposed to go out there and work for it. And if God puts a desire in your heart, then you have to understand that there's a tremendous amount of adversity that's going to keep you from that. It's just not going to be handed to you.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the From Boys to Men show, brought to you by the Squire Program. I'm your host, Lheyton Cook, and I have a really, really special guest with me. I know I say that about everybody, but this one is a very special guest to me, man, because this is like my older brother, man. And in fact, we literally call each other brothers. I call him my older brother. He calls me his younger brother because of the bond that we have built over all these years. And a lot of what we talk about at the Squire Program is, taking young men through a rite of passage to help them become better men. And this is one of the people that helped me do just that. And so I'm honored to have my brother here, Mr. Aaron Wetherspoon. What's going on, man? How you doing?
Good, man. It's an honor to see how this is. I mean, it's like they say, you never despise the days of small beginnings, because look at you now.
Yeah, it was cool, man. We were just talking about it before we pressed record, how this is a much different studio than my mom's house. You know what I'm saying? In the living room, in the den, you know what I'm saying? Like little janky stuff. In fact, because of that, we had like a bunch of errors behind the scene where we filmed one time and then the memory card got messed up, and so this won't happen this time. I can give you a date that'll be on YouTube, it'll be official, whatever, 4K.
They were practice runs.
Yeah, exactly. This is gonna be the main one anyway. So this is a really important episode for me to have, man, because like I said in the intro, I've had some really cool guests on here, but this one probably means the most to me, next to having my dad on the show. That was another important one to me. And so, really, man, I just want to talk to you kind of like how we talk about, things in general. Basically, like Tuesday morning when we finished boxing, we kind of just like started talking about how, the state of men are nowadays, things that they should be doing, where they need to pick up where they left off, or things that they think they're doing, they think they're doing the right things, they're killing it, but they're a little bit off. So in general, where do you think, men are at nowadays, and where do you think they're lacking?
I think men are weak nowadays, and I think that society's saying it's okay, and I don't think so. We're the foundation of our families, so when the S hits the fan, it needs to hit all us. It needs to be on us. And I think a lot of times when men don't go through adversity as growing up, they don't build that callus of, like with sports or one-on-one sports of losing, rejection. These are all things that in the human experience that we're gonna go through. And it's not about how many times that you fall down, it's how many times you get back up. Because in life, nobody's gonna go unscathed, but especially for men. We're supposed to battle. We're supposed to fight. And that's just the way that is. Like, nothing's supposed to be handed to you. You're supposed to go out there and work for it. And if God puts a desire in your heart, then you have to understand that there's a tremendous amount of adversity that's going to keep you from that. It's just not going to be handed to you. But I think with, the state of social media and things of that nature, where people are getting continuously instant gratification, they play into that. Like, for instance, like I was explaining to you, I could take a picture of me doing something, and automatically I'm going to get validation from it. And now I can find a way to bypass going through the adversity of becoming what I'm trying, what I'm throwing on social media, because I'm constantly getting all this they're affirming, like, hey, yeah, I'm good at this, I'm doing this, as opposed to going into the room of battle and getting your butt kicked. That gets you ready for life, because you're going to go through, when you go through life, you're going to get your butt kicked consistently. When you go to the top, there's always going to be people doing their best to bring you back down. But as a man, I think it's important for us to continuously, hey, you're going to fall off that horse, dust yourself off, if you need some time, but you got to jump back on that horse, and you got to get back to it.
100%, man. And I kind of, before I ask you to explain why loss is so important in a man's life to grow and get better, I want you to kind of explain how you understand that so well. Obviously, we know, the you being a champion and talking about battling, you've literally been in hundreds, if not thousands of battles physically in combat. And so kind of, first of all, I want you to kind of touch on that for a second and then explain, if you can, why that's so important for men to experience loss.
Well, because it's a sense of adversity. It's adversity that we're going to go through the world. I mean, the one thing that when I was fighting, I became world champion, but I wasn't fooled. I wasn't fooled with that regional world championship. I knew I wasn't a good fighter. I was a good athlete. And I was going into a room consistently getting my butt kicked all of the time. I mean, there was times where most of the time, I think the first 2 or 3 years, I had to sit in my car and hype myself up just to go into the practice room, because things at that time when I was fighting, MMA wasn't as watered down as it is now. It's just like the cool thing to do. When I walked into the room, I walked into a room full of killers that were ready to kill, and it was a weird polarity, because they were some of the most nicest people that you could ever think of, but as soon as they put the gloves on, they were ready to tear your head off. And for me, I didn't want to be defeated by that, and I understood early that I was going to have to get my butt kicked a lot before I was going to start dishing out. I just remember getting beat up so much, and I just remember, man, like I was like, there's going to be a time that I'm going to get good, and I'm going to whoop all your asses. It just so happened that I got good later, and they were all gone. You know what I mean? So it's like, I still have some ass whooping stuff. If I see you in the grocery store, you going to get it. You know what I mean? Like, it's nothing personal. It's business. You know what I mean? Because I remember it. And I think because I was a good athlete and I had a really, really good cardio and just a will not to quit. Because, there was times where, I broke my nose anywhere between 4 to 6 times in that room alone. Damn. Because the thing was like I just wasn't gonna quit. I wasn't, I was gonna take it. And the thing is, I never drank my own Kool-Aid. Like when I got a regional world champion, people automatically put you in a place that you start thinking like, but I never believed in my highlight film. Like I was always looking at like where I could be, not where I was at. And I knew there was a lot of work. The one thing that I had was like my work ethic was always my thing. Like, I knew if I ran 10 miles a day, if I did all the strength, whatever it was, I wanted to do my best to get myself prepared for what I was going to do in that ring. Because I knew skill wise, I really wasn't all that good, but I knew I wasn't going to get tired. I knew I was going to keep coming at you. And that's kind of like a metaphor of life. Because if you have a dream, if you have something that you're going out, if you're going after, you have to understand that you're going to take a lot of beatings, a lot of no's, a lot of rejection, and you have to find a way to continuously reinvent yourself, get back up, and go after it. If you believe in that, like I think now because of social media, people look at it and automatically think that those people were there. Read the stories, read the rejection, read what got them there. And there's a greater appreciation. But what I do think too is now in the state of men are weak. They just want it handed to them. They don't want to take any ass whoopings. They don't want to take rejection. They don't want to take no's. They don't want to take anything. And then we have a culture that's saying, oh, it's okay. No, it's not okay. It's not okay. This world is built off of us. We got to be tough and we have to be strong. When people always say like, oh, you need to be in touch with your feminine. No, you don't. No, you don't. Like, it's all right to be cognizant, and it's okay. Like if you go through defeat and, you cry or whatever it is, but you have to understand you got to get back up and you got to get back to the fight.
So what did that do for you when, cause you used to tell me some crazy stories, man, about certain things you do, like, fighting before you learn how to professionally fights, in high school and just early days, whatever, and certain things. And so you were used to being that guy and, getting the better hand, having the upper hand on people just throughout those early years. But then you go to a place where these people have been training for years for this. And then now you're on the other hand, when you're on the receiving end, like, what did that do to your mindset as far as going from here, like almost like being the king of like, for example, high school, whatever, and then going to this place, this area where it's like, damn, there's like a bunch of me's in this room where they've been training longer. They've been, they this is what they do for a living. Like, kind of what that do to your mindset?
Well, it wasn't necessarily my mindset. I wasn't ignorant. I wasn't like a lot of these dumb street fighters that think they can go into a room and compete with people that are doing this all day long. Like I understood the math of it. You know, like for instance, when I hear people say like, "Oh, I've been in a couple street fights." Well, I don't know a street fighter that goes into a room, trains for 8 to 10 hours a day, goes through every adverse position that you could possibly think of, that's constantly training, has the reflexes, the footwork. There's so many intricate details that are into fighting. It's like now at the level of fighting I'm at now, fighting has now become art for me. Now it's not more or less like, oh, if I can punch somebody, it's the trajectory of the punch, the twist. Am I using my feet? Am I using my whole entire body to display this violence? That's a lot of times like I wasn't ignorant to the fact that I didn't know what I was doing. And like I knew that when I went in that room, I had humility, but because I came from a bodybuilding background and a lot of professional fighters, they don't like bodybuilders because a lot of bodybuilders think they're tough because of the way that they look. And we live in such an exterior world that when you see somebody with muscles and you see somebody that's buff, you automatically think like, oh, this person can fight and they can do that. And the one thing about fighters, when you go into a room and like, they're like, okay, you have to continuously prove yourself every day, which is a great thing to do in this world now, because basically, you know, when you go to the workforce or whatever your craft is, you consistently have to prove yourself every day, every day. And I think the one thing with where social media is killing us is that you're seeing the end result of somebody's success. And so not understanding what it takes to really necessarily get there. And so a lot of times you'll take a shortcut to get there, where it's like, okay, this looks like I'm rich, but you're really not rich, or you're not really successful. You know, you're not really that person. You know what I mean? There's a lot of work and then the thing is, you miss stages of the game, because the thing is that through that adversity, through that pain, humility comes. So there's a tremendous amount of humility that comes along with that, you know, because I remember like when I first started fighting, I was just like, I wasn't like, oh, I'm going to beat anybody up, but I was like, hey, if somebody wants to get it, they going to get it. You know what I mean? Like, but when you get to a certain level of fighting, peace comes out of it. You'll exhaust every measure of peace so you don't have to fight. And that's the true essence of fighting. It's like, you know, you want to be so competent in fighting that you don't fight.
Exactly. So moving away from that, like what do guys do nowadays to, you know, strengthen that side of them, harden themselves, you know, get better at dealing with adversity? What's some advice you would give to somebody who maybe is living the exact opposite life, where they're living in their you know, their feminine side, get in touch with that side, you know, they think, you know, all the stuff that we're talking about right now is BS. Like, what's some advice you give to that person?
Don't be a pussy. Like, go into the room, like find ways for adversity. Find ways where you're going to expose yourself to that adversity, whatever it is. Because no matter what you do, you're gonna have to face that adversity some way or another. And there's nothing like combat one-on-one. Being in uncomfortable situations, like situations that really think like, oh, can I do this? You know, is this something I can do? Like, you want to consistently always test yourself. You need to put yourself in those situations. I'm not saying that everybody needs to be a fighter, but I think it's important that you get in a room where you're exposed to that type of adversity, where somebody is mounting you and you have to find a way to get them off, or, you know, whatever that situation or scenario would be. Because it's like, if you find that situation, you know, people say like, oh, I'll rise to the occasion. Well, because I remember when I first started, my first cage fight, you know, it's crazy, because you would think like, you know, you'd be ready for this. But I just remember like, I couldn't believe when I looked across the ring, there was a complete total stranger that I've never met in my whole entire life I just knew looking across, he wanted to do something bad to me. And then when he punched me, it's a weird what you go through, but when he punched me, I just couldn't believe that he punched me. Like, I was like, what are you doing? Like, I don't even know you. You know what I mean? Like, I don't even know you. And I couldn't believe that he punched me. And there's a shock that goes through your body, and you're just like, oh, you know, it's fight or flight. Like, I actually have to fight back. And that's kind of like how life is, you know, because the thing is like, you know, you have something in mind that you want to go after, and you have to realize there's other people that are competing with you, and it's not a cakewalk. You know, like for me, I think it's important that a man goes through a sense of adversity, goes through defeat consistently, and finds a way to get up, dust himself back up, find a way to reinvent yourself and go after it again.
Right. So do you recommend that? I have a feeling I know what your answer is going to be. I believe that every man should, take up some kind of combat, sport. But do you believe that every man should learn how to, defend himself in that way, or put himself in that position, whether it's boxing, jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, whatever? Do you feel like every man needs to learn some kind of combat sport?
100%. 100%. I think that as a man, you should know how to defend yourself. Now, I'm not saying like you have to defend yourself at a very high level, but I think it should be part of your daily life. Like some form or some fashion, it should be part of your daily life. Like I'm not advocating for going out and fighting, but I think when you know how to fight, then it's more of a guaranteed way of not fighting.
Right.
So, and I think like it gives you a certain peace and certain comfort as a man to be able to defend yourself. I'm not saying a lot of people can't dedicate their lives to becoming a professional fighter, but I think every man should face that type of adversity where it's one-on-one type of combat, because it's like, what are you going to do when you're at the movies and somebody grabs your girl's butt? Are you going to talk it out with that guy?
No, but here's the thing though. I had a guy that one time got to argue with me in the comments because he was like, well, how often does that stuff really happen? Like, you're wasting your time training for hours, a day for something that may or may not even happen. Like, how often are you, in a bar when a dude, bumps your wife and doesn't apologize, or, grabs your butt at the movies or whatever? Like, how often does that happen? Like, what do you say to that guy?
I would say you're right. What are the chances of that happening? It may not happen. Like, you can go through life and maybe find a way to avoid that at all costs. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you're absolutely right. But what happens if it does? Mm-hmm. What happens if it does? That analogy is kind of like saying like, oh, I don't want to be successful. I don't want to have money because I'm cool here. There. Well, what happens when something hits the fan and you lose? You're in the process of losing your car or your house. That money that you talk about, like, oh, I don't need, you actually need it. So That's the same thing, like where, if you're in your house and somebody breaks into your house, what are the chances that happen? Maybe nothing. Like, maybe that will never happen in your whole entire life. But what if it does?
Yeah.
What if it does? Like, for me, like I've gotten really at a high level of fighting, so I don't have to fight.
Right.
But there's a certain peace that comes with knowing that I'm comfortable. If that situation hits, that situation hits, I'm good to go.
Yeah, we're prepared. Yeah. At the end of the day, like we do another one of Bezos's programs. It's called Operation Black Site, and one of the evolutions is led by Tim Kennedy, and Tim leads the segment where he teaches about shooting. They put you through a whole shoot house, how to clear corners and all this stuff, right?
He's also an accomplished fighter as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so Tim is just all around just like dangerous. And he told this story about how this dude he's trying to break into his house. He went on his property. He has some stuff where as soon as someone crosses this line and gets on his line or whatever, automatically he's being filmed. There's no siren that goes off. You don't know you're being filmed, but he's, alerted. So he's like in his bed watching his phone, watching the guy move, from this place to that place, whatever. And then the dude, once Tim was just watching, he didn't even get up yet. He said once he saw him go around to close to his daughter's room, that's when he got up. He's like, all right, it's game time. And so he snuck around and then got behind the guy. The guy was climbing up these vines, and he got behind the dude and grabbed his hair and pulled him off the wall. And he just put a gun to the back of his head. He said, you're going to do whatever I say, or your brain's about to be, splatter, right? Yeah. And so I just think about the fact that, like, somebody who obviously didn't know that was Tim, or maybe he did know it was Tim Kennedy's house and thought, hey, because of who he is, he's got to have a bunch of stuff. He's loaded, whatever. He's loaded for sure.
Well,
he's got a bunch
I beg
of stuff,
to differ that he knew that was Tim Kennedy, because if he knew it was Tim Kennedy, I think you're going to do your best to avoid, somebody not only that is accomplished fighter, but somebody who's also accomplished with his arms.
Yeah,
like,
it's dangerous.
That's a no-win situation. Like, you're better with Joe Bob down the street.
Exactly.
Take your chances with him.
100%. And so I bring that story up because I think that obviously we're not all going to accomplish what he accomplished. That's not my point. My point is that I think we should at least strive to learn how to do some of these things, learn how to fight, also learn how to shoot, learn how to exercise all options. Like, don't be one-sided, be multifaceted. And I think that's a lot about what you talk about. That's a lot about what you taught me anyways, is as far as not being, just basically only having one skill, right? If I was only growing up, skateboarding was the only thing that I did, it's just like I just be known as just a skater. But you got to do other things, you know, expand and be different. So that's kind of, I think, the point that that really resonated with me. Something that a lesson that you taught me just throughout, you know, examples. Not even something that you sat me down and told me, hey, this is what you got to do. Just through your example, you know, I knew you did a bunch of different things, and that's always one of the things that I looked up to you for, and that definitely stuck with me for sure. So I want to talk to you about state of relationships nowadays, man, because I feel like this is something that gets you ramped up a little bit, but and I need the viral moments, bro. So come on, you holding back right now. Now I just want to get your opinion, man, on kind of, you know, because it's kind of crazy right now. You obviously can find, you know, good guys, good girls out there. Like I definitely don't believe in the notion that people say like, there's no good girls nowadays. Excuse me. They're all, you know, on OnlyFans and, you know, in the club, whatever. You definitely can find the girls that are there, but I believe you have to become the man to be able to attract that kind of girl.
Absolutely.
Because right now she's hiding. You're not that person. She's not looking for you.
Absolutely.
So what's your thought on that?
I'm a firm believer that you are what you attract. Mm-hmm. And I think the state of men as well, like men aren't men. You don't automatically, like a woman's not automatically going to pick you and put you in that place. And the one thing about women is if you're not going to provide and take care of a woman, they're going to find a way to go out and do it for themselves. And now I think there's women nowadays are a little bit more liberated, which I think is a disaster because, you know, there was a time when I was growing up, you actually had to work to see a woman naked. Now it's just like, you know, they're throwing themselves out there and it's like,
pay the $4.99.
You know, everybody's naked now. Mm-hmm. Like nobody wants to put on their clothes. Everybody's naked right now and everybody feels like, oh, that's my freedom, that's my liberation. But you're actually, you know, like you're taking away your power. But I also think like the whole state of men, like a woman doesn't want to be led by a weak man. And the only way that you become a strong man is going through a sense of adversity, understanding that whatever craft or whatever gift that you have in this world, you're going to have to go through a lot of adversity and a lot of things. Sometimes like I believe a man should have a season of singleness in order to really, really understand what he wants to attract and what he's trying to accomplish in life, where he can attract the right woman. Now it's different if you have, you know, if you're out there and you just want to hook up and, you know, do your thing, whatever. There's plenty of women out there for that. But when you're talking about relationships and attracting the right woman, it's like I think a lot of times you have to look at yourself and say, am I that person that can attract the woman that I'm looking for? And most of the time you're not.
Right.
You know, so then you want to place the blame on the woman. And it's the same thing with women nowadays. You know, women say like, oh, I want to be married, but are you marriage material? Like the thing is like, yeah, a lot of them are not. So the thing is like when I decided that I wanted to, that God put it on my heart to be a husband, I learned how to be a husband and I carry myself like a husband. So when God presents my wife, I'm prepared for her. So, but there's a lot of preparation that goes along with that. I believe work comes before the woman. I think a man needs to be in his work before he finds a woman. So he needs to know who he is, be in his work, so he can attract the right woman to help him with his work.
Right. So I had, you know, Bedros and I do. He does a BK show, and then every Sunday we have episodes released where I sit across the table from him and we read people's questions that they have for him. We kind of just have a little back and forth about it. One guy last week actually not even just last week, man, this is like a trending topic lately, bro. You hear all the time about guys complaining about, you know, my girl doesn't submit, you know, why doesn't she let me lead or whatever. And I said, all right, listen, man, we're going to talk about this conversation one more time because I'm tired of reading it. I'm tired of talking about it. It should be very simple. For some reason, it's not. And so I'll just ask you the question and see what your thought is. So the guy was saying, he's like, yeah, man, you know, I've been with my lady for 3 years now. And, you know, we keep running into the same problems. She always wants to make the decisions. She bosses me around. She tells me whatever. And I don't like it. Like, she doesn't let me lead. And for me, I automatically thought, like, bro, even the way you asked that, like you said, let me lead. Like, a leader doesn't ask to lead. Like, but that doesn't make any sense. So what would you say to that guy who has having problems with his lady submitting and letting him be a leader?
Well, your woman doesn't have confidence in your leadership. Like, I've never had an issue with that when I've been in a relationship of being a man and taking the leadership. Yeah, I never had any of that. But the thing is, the state of manhood nowadays is very weak. Like if a woman is not submitting to you, you have to give her something to submit to. You just can't learn on you don't learn that. You have to learn how to be a man and go through adversity and things of that nature before you get into a relationship. So you know who you are. So you know who you are, you know what your work is, you know what you're doing. So it's like when that woman comes into your place, she's there to help you with your vision and what you got going on. But you have to complete all that before you find a woman and become a man that she will submit to. You shouldn't have to. If you have to, it's kind of like, when everybody always talks about like, oh, I'm an alpha, this, that. If you have to go into a room and announce that you're an alpha, you're really not an alpha. You're not. So it's like, if you have to go to your girl and say, oh, you should be submitting to me, you basically have to look at them in the mirror yourself and say, well, would I submit to myself? Right. Am I a man that a woman would want to submit to? Like, and that's the thing. Like, we don't have, a lot of times we don't have self-awareness and we don't have accountability because it's painful. You have to go through a lot. Like, I remember when I was going through fighting, I decided I wasn't going in a relationship because most people don't understand as a fighter, you're broke. You're not making any money, so there's no way like I'm going to be able to lead a woman and take care of a family and give provision to a woman when I'm in the middle of trying to accomplish something so big. Like that's just not going to happen. But I think that's unrealistic for a man to sit there and tell a woman, hey, look, you should submit to me. You should become a man.
You need to submit.
Yeah,
that sounds crazy.
You need to submit. Yeah, that sounds ridiculous. But like, people don't think that, and I think that's because it's going around, and that's the thing. Like, oh, a woman's blah 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 this and blah 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 that. And the thing is like I've never had that experience, but I also understand that like as a man, you have to go through adversity and you have to go through a lot of tremendous things in order for you to become that man. And when you find that woman will be ultimately submissive. But you have to have a plan. You have to have an idea of what you're going. You have to be in your work. That's why I always tell every person that I talk to is work comes before the woman. You have to be in your work for you to be able to attract the right woman. A woman, I think that it's important for a man to be in his singleness, create an environment where when a woman comes into your environment, she automatically knows her place. Now, that's not a bad thing, because a place behind a good man is a good place to be at. But you want her to step into your environment and automatically know, okay, I'm here to help this guy. He doesn't need anything else. He needs my help. Right. And that's it. Right.
Are you familiar with Passport Bros, the Passport Bro movement? Do you know what that is?
To a certain extent, yeah.
That's great. So basically, for anybody watching who doesn't know, it's basically like these guys talking about how, America is doomed. There's no good women anymore. Feminist movement killed it, which I agree with. But as far as no good women out here, I don't agree with that. And so they're like, all right, well, I'm going to go to Saudi Arabia. I'm going to go to Colombia. I'm going to go to, whatever overseas to find a traditionally feminine woman. And so they're shopping for where they think good women will be. They're basically taking the easy route. Let me just go across country or go across, not across country, overseas, and just find a woman that's already like that versus staying where they're at, becoming the man they should be, and then she'll present herself because she's aware of it. So what do you think about the Passport Bro movement?
I think it all goes back to being that man. Like, I think you have to have your stuff together. I think that you have to be in your work. You got to be making your money. You got to be doing your things, because the fact of the matter is that regardless if you go get a woman here, Thailand, or whatever it is, when she finds out that you're a sissy, she's gonna leave you anyways.
Get that green card.
So the thing is, but I understand that women over there are raised to be wives. A lot of women here are not raised to be wives. They're raised to be independent. I don't need a man. Yada yada yada, that particular type of thing. So I understand if you go outside of the country to find a woman that's more submissive to a man, but that goes back to the man.
You still have to do the work.
You have to be that man. Like, you have to give a woman something to be submissive to. Right. So the thing is that all goes to a man in his singleness season. Or like when they talk about a woman completes you. A woman doesn't complete you. A woman enhances what you've already completed. I believe in your singleness season, you complete yourself. You find your work. That's when you find your investments. You work out. You become that person. So when you find that woman, she automatically, when she steps into your place, she automatically knows, like, okay, like, I don't need to do all this other stuff. I just need to help this person with what he's got going on. I think the whole movement with the whole pass pro bro things is the fact that they're going out, and women are more traditional. They don't have the influence of this culture, because the influence of this culture is completely different to the culture outside of it, where women are raised to be housewives and take care of the house, which most people don't understand is taking care of a house is a hell of a job.
Hell yeah.
That's not an easy job to do.
No. Yeah.
You know, especially when you have kids. Because I mean, my mom was a licensed daycare provider for 25 years, so I've seen the different side of kids. You know, kids will suck the life out of you. You know, so it's like that's not an easy job. Right. You know, taking care of the house is not an easy job. But I think the whole movement goes with finding more traditional women. But like I said before, that all goes to a man completing himself. You know, finding his work, taking care of your body, having your finances straight. All that stuff has to be in order for you to attract the right woman.
What do you think about, though? Like, because what if you bring that, okay, so it sounds beautiful. You do the work for yourself as a man first, you build yourself up, then you go out to one of these countries and find a traditional woman, and you come back home and bring her. But then now she's in the field too now. So now she's in the country. She sees the different girls, how they move, how they're dressing, you know, how she gets an Instagram, and, you know, she starts seeing different things, whatever. And now her mind gets polluted too. Like, what do you think about that? Do you think that could happen?
Well, like I said, I've never had that experience. So I just think that, you know, it all goes back to the man. Like, I think a man controls with his actions, not with the things that he says. I mean, I've never had a woman come in and say, like, oh, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that and this, that, and everything else. A woman knows when a man is in charge, or a woman knows when a man is dominant. Because the thing is they'll test you. They're always going to test you.
For sure.
The women are they're definitely going to test you. So, you know, you have to be able to put your foot down. But that all goes down with being the confidence in the man that you are. You know, a man doesn't have to go around telling you, "Oh, well, I'm the man." You just be the man. Yeah. You know. So, but I think that's always gonna be tested. But I also think this too as well. And like, I don't know about other people, but I think when you understand the man that you are, and you understand like your standards and things of that nature, most women you can imprint on, where they know, like, okay, like, even if they test you, they know how far they're going to test you. They know, like, oh, he's not going to put up with that. I'm not going to do that. So it's like,
not even worth it.
Yeah. So that all goes with the man. Being confident in who you are and what you want to, and putting the work in. You have to put the work in. You got to put the work in. You got to put the sacrifice, and then, you know, whatever that may be, because we don't come complete. I mean, we all have things that we have to work on. But I think that it's important that you work on those things before you get the woman. So when you get the woman, and understand that, like, yeah, women are going to test that. They're going to stretch. They're always going to do it, and I think that's a good thing. You know, that always keeps you, like, where, you know, I know for myself, if a woman was like, well, I'm going to get an Instagram, you know, you just give them that look like,
you tripping.
Really? Like, you going to get that Instagram and be alone, you can be single.
You can do everything, you know, like, outside.
Yeah, so that's not going to happen. Yeah. But, yeah, I believe they're always going to, you know, try to test you and see if they can push the waters. But, you know, I think a person is confident, self-assured, and knows the program that he's running, it's a do or die. It's like, you know, you can do that, but you're not going to be with me while you do it. Yeah.
On the note of confidence, though, how does let's say somebody's watching this, they're in between, you know, a young man, he's like in between 20 to 25, you know, he's not very confident in himself. He doesn't have too many wins yet. He's still younger. He's still trying to figure himself out. How does he increase his confidence in himself as a man?
I think finding things that you're good at, putting time and energy into those things, and building off those things. So then when you get a couple wins in life, then you could step out into because the thing is, life is about being uncomfortable, and eventually you're going to be in that, but you got to start tallying up wins before you do any of that. Find something that you're good at, and when you find something that you're good at, and get a couple wins in that bracket, that should give you a little bit of confidence. But I think the one thing that I find, because I have a coworker that he said that he's scared to fail. And for me, I just told him, I said, look, you got to get comfortable with failure. because that's what life. You got to fail forward. Right. That's a part of life. So that's one thing. Like, I think that the thing is it's kind of like, I use this metaphor. People want to jump in the ring and not get hit. They want it easy. And so the thing is like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it for anybody that I'm around. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be hard, and you're going to be tested in the times where you've gotten knocked down, and finding the courage to get back up.
Right.
That's where it's built at. Where it's like, okay, I failed, I messed up, can I find a way to get back up and fight again? Because that's what life is in general, and you have to expose yourself to that, because the thing is that you're going to fall down again. And you're going to remember the last time that you fell down. And then it's just kind of like you have your time to kind of like, okay, can I do this? And then you find a way to get back up and fight again.
Right.
And confidence comes from that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So the last thing I want to ask you, man, and this is just let your mind take you wherever it takes you, man. Just where do you think... I'm trying to figure out the way to ask this. It's actually a very simple question, basically asking, or not asking, but saying how men can step up and do better. If you're giving, that one man advice, the cap the episode off, let them know, bro, you got to step up. Maybe he's a little soft. He's not really acting the way that he should, whatever, leading the way that he should, whatever. What's like the last thing to cap everything off? What advice would you give to that person?
Well, that's kind of hard for me, because the thing is that I think a person needs to have some sort of a relationship with me to understand that I care, because I'm very blunt and I'm very forward. For me, it's get your ass up and fight. Like, you can't sit down there and like we all, and as men, we all have our moments. We all have our moments, but there's a time that you got to get up and grab your balls and get right back to it. It's okay to experience the defeat. It's okay to say like, I need a timeout, but you got to get back in the fight.
Let's say you're talking to 17-year-old me before you came in, actually, I filmed an episode talking about, helping young dudes who get married young or they get in a committed relationship at a young age, and talking about maybe some things that might help them to succeed, especially in like this day and age. And I recalled a story about my ex all through high school. You know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And then after we broke up, that was like, it meant like, it was like the world was over. I was with her all through high school. It was like, that's my life, whatever. And it sucked. And I remember having a conversation with you, and I was like, all right, it's all good. So you're talking to 17-year-old me, you know what I'm saying? May or may not be crying, you feel me? Being a little like, all right, man, I got to get back up. So what would you tell that person?
I think it's important for any man, like especially when lost, because love is like the highest. Love is the highest vibration in the world. So when you get your heart broke, you have to be present in that heartbreak. So I think that it's important that you have your moment where you're just like, oh, this hurts, this sucks. But it's no different than getting fired or not accomplishing something. Like, you eventually have to heal, get back up, and get back in there, especially if your desire is to, like, it kind of depends, because you have people that are not really, like, if you want to be a husband, you have to learn how to be a husband. If you just want to go out and do your thing or whatever it is, go out and do your thing, but don't masquerade as being somebody that wants to be your boyfriend or whatever, when you really really want to hit it. If you want to be a player and be a ladies' man, be present in that. Know where you're at and know what you're trying to accomplish and what you want to be, so you could be present in that. Because I think that it's important, like, if you're trying to be married, to conduct yourself like a husband. But if you're trying to go out and play, don't act like you want to get married just to go and get that. Like, hey, be straight up and be honest about what you're trying to do. I mean,
I remember hearing you being very honest to not a lot of girls. I should say, I don't want to take that back, but I remember hearing you be honest with some people.
It's okay.
And I remember hearing you through the wall, like through the bedroom wall. I was listening. I was like, damn, that's crazy. Like, I could never. I gotta.
But I also think that confidence comes with knowing the man that you are.
Yeah.
Like I'm not masquerading. I'm trying to be somebody else. Like I'm the one thing that I pride myself on is being very self-aware, because like I'm my biggest critic. Like I have a standard that I think that I should be accomplishing, and when I don't, then it's like you can't beat me down more than I'm gonna beat myself down. But I also realize, like, look, I know I'm gonna get back up and I'm gonna fight. But I understand what heartbreak is, and so the thing is like when you get your heart broken, it's like, hey, you got to have your time to heal. And the thing is one thing that I'm understanding in this being older is that sometimes people come into your life for seasons, and they prepare you for what's already prepared. And sometimes, you keep people in your life for their season has ran out. There's something that I've learned from every person that I've been with that has empowered me to become the version that I am now. So when I do get married, like I've been through all this, and there's certain things that I know that I wouldn't tolerate, and there's certain things that I could have been a little bit more tolerable on. But a lot of that goes to me knowing who I am and spending, like, because I don't think a lot of people spend enough time with themselves and understand themselves. Like, for instance, I know me, I've dated me, I've hung out with me, I've kicked it with me. So I know who I am. Like, I know what I'm about. And I think a lot of people don't know who they are, because it's like, especially now with social media, now you can give the perception of somebody that you would like to be without going through the hard work in order to do that. And subconsciously you think you're that person, and life is going to tell you, or you're going to get around somebody like that you're not that guy, you're not that person. So I think it's important for a man to thrive in his singleness and really understand who he is and what he's presenting. So what you'll put up with and what you won't put up with. Because the one thing that I do understand this is that, when a person like when he gets courage, or when he gets a little bit like he's going to speak for himself, when he first starts doing it, it's just it fires off. You're not really picky about who you do it with. It's like when you get a new skill. Like I remember when I first started learning how to fight, everybody was getting it. I was shadowboxing everybody. Like, who wanted to fight, who wanted to get it. And then as time went on, it's kind of like I don't even want people to know that I was a professional fighter or that I have that capability. So I think it all goes down to, like, if you have to know exactly what you want and be honest with that. Like, if you're just going out just to play and do your thing, be present in that. Don't act. But if you are trying to, date, because dating for marriage, so I take marriage very, very seriously. I think a man needs to become a husband before he gets married. I mean, because the thing is, you're talking about a lifelong commitment to somebody. And I'm very firm on my beliefs when it comes to marriage, that you should be honorable and faithful, and you should honor your marriage. And I think a lot of times you shouldn't just go into a marriage just because it's the right thing to do. You have to realize that this is the person that you're going to die with. This is the only time that two people are becoming one. So I take marriage extremely serious when it comes to that. But I was at a point where, I'm able to do that because I went out and I was present with my playing when I was out dating and stuff and doing my thing. I was like, look, I'm a nice place to visit, but you don't want to live here. Like,
what are your favorite phrases, man? Infamous for that. I remember that. So,
but now I'm in the process of being prepared. It's learning what I need to do to be an excellent husband and create an environment. So when I meet my wife, when she walks in, she automatically knows. But I think it's getting to know yourself as a man, like spending time by yourself, exposing yourself to adversity, understanding that, hey, look, like, because the thing is like I tell a lot of people, that thought of giving up. You see these people that have accomplished things and think like, because when people ask me like, oh, you're so barbaric, this, that, and everything else, it's like, dude, I still fight wanting to quit.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I'm so conditioned to say like, nah, it's not going like that. But to say like it doesn't, because I remember when I first started fighting, I used to think that it was going to be, like, oh, I need to get hyped up and stuff. I was terrified, scared. Like I was like, I hope this guy slips on a banana peel so I don't have to go out there, So you fight that adversity consistently all the time, where it's like, I'd be nervous and scared all the way. And the thing is, out of 15 fights, I've been in the main event 11 times. So you're sitting backstage just terrified, hoping that you don't have to go out there. But you know, you make that walk, and then once you get into that cage and you hear the cage shut, I've accepted the fact that this is going to go down. Like this is what needs to happen. It's kind of like how life is, you know, like you're going to go through all these different paths, and you're going to be scared, and you're going to be terrified. But then when you get to where you're supposed to get to, and you understand that it's real, you got to buck up. You know, you got to get going.
Mm-hmm. Appreciate you, man. My brother Aaron, dude, excuse me, man. Dude, I'm just grateful, brother. I'm glad to finally get you on the show, man. We've been trying to make this happen for a little bit, and I'm glad that you were able to come and kind of just, you know, share a little bit about your mindset, man. Like, we got footage of you fighting online, but not so much of you talking, and so this is cool to be able to do that and finally put it out for the people. So I appreciate you coming out, man. Thanks a lot.
I appreciate the invite, and like I said, man, this is great to see how much you've grown and all this. It's you have those proud moments, like where you're just like, okay, he's out here doing it. So I appreciate it.
Thanks, man. Thank you. All right, guys. So anyways, we appreciate you, man, tuning in and watching all the way through. That was an awesome episode, jam-packed with a lot of value. And, man, as always, like I always say, if you got any value from the episode, which I know you did, stop lying. Like the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.